What I've realized with my clients is that we are all so very, very unique. And what is good for one person may not really work well for another person. And it's something that's always been on my radar and has been part of the way that I work because I know that we all have this unique structure inside. However, it's just become more and more obvious to me that in order to help the people who really desperately need the help, it's really about tuning into that uniqueness. What's going on under the hood, looking at their data, looking at their symptoms, and really making sure that what we're doing is a fit for them and not necessarily a fit for everybody.
And welcome back, everyone, but mostly welcome, Dr. Piper. It is so great to have you back. It's been over 2 years. We were just chatting about that, but I would love to know, what have you been up to these last 2 years?
Well, thanks for having me back. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you. What haven't I been up to these last 2 years? It's been quite busy. So I wrote a book and became a #1 international best-selling author. So TikTok, and it's called Common Misconceptions, Natural Solutions, and Real Conversations about Tic Disorders. But I wrote it because I wanted parents to have a different perspective on tic disorders and their children's diagnosis, because so many parents are told, just ignore your kids' symptoms. We're just sweep them under the rug. We're going to ignore them and maybe they'll grow out of them. And I wanted them to be able to have some information from a totally different perspective about what we went through and what we did in order to get my kid back on track using the natural approach.
Yeah, I love it. And I think it's so valuable because of all the families you've already helped, at least when we originally spoke, but how many more families you've been able to help and just getting the word out there, because you're right. A lot of people are like ignoring the symptoms or don't really see how they can help their child, but really having something so tangible that they can read through and have another resource to not feel so alone, because I'm sure it does feel very stifling when doctors might not be receptive to it, or it'll go away, or whatever other things that come up, but really being able to dive in. So what has it been like since you've written the book? And I know now you've just expanded your business even more so since we've spoken too.
Yeah. So in the last 2 years, the work that I do, well, we're just going to say it's really caught fire, meaning I wrote the book and we have had just grown exponentially, helping so many families around the world. We have clients in Romania and Austria and Australia and the United States. I mean, we have clients all over the world that we are helping people with these natural alternative approaches to tic disorders, because obviously it is not just the families in the United States who are struggling. There's families all over the world who are struggling with their child's diagnosis and they have nowhere to turn and they feel hopeless. And so, we have grown exponentially. I think when I talked to you last, it was just me.
Yes.
And we now have a team of 10. There's 10 people. I've got 2 other providers who work with me and are seeing our clients as well. But things have really just blown up in the tic disorders department.
Oh, I love it. That makes me so happy for you, because I know how much passion you had for this, because it started with your own child and being able to really just help so many families not be in the same position or have thriving lives as well. And I just remember a lot of the case studies you shared in the previous episode. There was a little girl and just like what she had gone through.
Her tic was doing burpees. She did burpees like all day long, and her knees would be bruised and she could not control herself. She couldn't hold a pencil in school and concentrate. And her mom would send me videos of when she was really little, just all of these obsessive compulsive things that she was doing. And so about 90 days, 4 months in, symptoms went away. She was no longer struggling with that. She's 14. And so for her, she will call me, and she called me the other day and said, I just wanted to tell you that I was able to have a sleepover, which is something I've never been able to do before because I don't want other people in my space. And the very first time she called me and I just started crying was, she said, I just wanted you to know today was the first day that I've been able to sit in school and hold my own pencil and do my own writing. And of course I am bawling, but she's called me and just been like, you've just changed my life. She got her dream high school. She joined the rock climbing team. Just all of these things that her mom was like, a year ago, there was no way she was going to be doing these things. And so of course now her mom is like my right-hand man and she is amazing. But to see these kids just go through the process and to really reclaim their own lives and be able to do all of these things they wanted to do, they can take center stage in their own life. And
moving through the last 2 years, what were maybe one or two lessons you've learned through this journey of growth, even though it's been really amazing? Has there been anything come up?
Yeah. I feel like nothing is out of the realm of possibility. So, what I've realized with my clients is that we are all so very, very unique. And what is good for one person may not really work well for another person. And it's something that's always been on my radar and has been part of the way that I work because I know that we all have this unique structure inside. However, it's just become more and more obvious to me that in order to help the people who really desperately need the help, it's really about tuning into that uniqueness. What's going on under the hood, looking at their data, looking at their symptoms, and really making sure that what we're doing is a fit for them and not necessarily a fit for everybody. So, really looking at the fact that nothing is out of the realm of possibility as of what we're seeing with helping these kids get on track, back on track.
Well, I believe it. And it's like that possibility of just you don't know what you don't know until you actually put in the effort and just even the possibilities. I know you've started another business as well. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we launched Elite Gene Labs. It's elitegenelabs.com in May. And what we wanted to focus on is one of the things that we've noticed through this process with all of our tic disorder clients is when we get to the genetics piece, a lot of them become exceptional athletes. Like we have one child in Australia who went from his mom was like, he was a couch potato. He could not run 5 minutes to save his life. He went from being in that shape to a year later winning state track tournaments in Australia because we had optimized his genetics. And he's not the only one. We have other cases where we're seeing these children become these exceptional athletes. And so what we decided to do with Elite Gene Labs is focus on genetic optimization for first responders, firefighters, police officers, athletes, kids who are athletes, really focusing on people who maybe they're not sick, they don't have symptoms, but they really want to be at the top of their game and they want to be able to perform, exponentially. This is where we start to look at the genetics and apply that to them to help them optimize their unique genetics to make them stand out of the crowd.
Yes, absolutely. And can you tell us a little bit more about what that looks like, the like genetic optimization and how that has really transformed their lives? I know you gave the example of the runner, but what it's really looked like.
Yeah, so we look at about 60 different genes and we look at that in comparison with someone's health history. Like, what has their health been like since the day they were born? What is their health like now? Diet, lifestyle. Like, we're looking at all of these factors. And we're also looking at genetics because we know that epigenetic factors, meaning your environment, your diet, your lifestyle, impact the way your genes function. So, for example, you have somebody who maybe is predisposed genetically to chronic aggressive inflammation. So we look at on and off switches for inflammation. Maybe that person really doesn't tolerate inflammatory foods well. They don't tolerate things that are going to cause inflammation in the body because they're going to have an increased immune response. And so when we look at maybe these genes in particular, we know that we can tone things down, follow more of an anti-inflammatory lifestyle. We can look at the nutrition aspect, like how well do you utilize vitamins like folate and B12? We can look at how well people can clear and turn over neurotransmitters. And so your genetics really are not set in stone. These are not things that are, I like to say, oh my gosh, I'm going to die genes. That's not what these are. We are looking at how we can alter your genetic expression by looking at what's going on outside that epigenetic factor and how it applies to your genes. So does that make sense? Is it too sciencey?
Today's episode is sponsored by the Start Here Conference.
Hey there, fabulous folks. Welcome to the Start Here Conference, where the fun begins and success stories unfold.
Yep, you heard it right. We're here to kickstart your journey with a big dose of energy and a sprinkle of magic.
Picture this, a place where inspiration flows, connections bloom, and dreams take flight.
At Start Here, we're all about keeping it real and having a blast while doing it.
No stuffy suits or boring speeches here, just good vibes and endless possibilities.
So whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just dipping your toes in the water, there's something here for everyone.
From incredible breakout sessions to a dance party that'll have you jumping out your seats and showing us your best moves, this event will have it all.
And hey, did we mention the food? Delicious bites and refreshing drinks to keep you fueled up and ready to conquer the world.
So what are you waiting for? Grab your ticket, bring your sparkle. Let's make some magic happen at the Start Here conference.
And now back to the show. No, I mean, I love it, but like, I think you broke it down really clearly too, because it's not just one entity. I actually saw this, I'm rewatching Grey's Anatomy, and Dr. Bailey was like going through the genetic testing of just each element in the person's body and like how each cell gets like integrated with others and how that can affect their immune system. But it's the same concept because you're looking at every aspect, a very holistic approach. And that's always been your genre as well. But like being able to look at the whole person, what they need, where they're at, to be able to optimize each aspect of their life, because how we digest things can look so different based off of what we're eating, not getting enough nutrients of certain like vitamin B12 or folate or whatever else there is. I mean, there's so many other things, but being able to really understand that.
Yeah, and I think that for most of the general population, they see genetics as something that cannot be changed, that cannot be impacted. You know, these are my genes. Oh, I just have to live with it. And then there's a lot of misinformation on the internet, you know, about maybe people focus on one gene. And I'm like, one gene does not work alone. Like we have this whole cycle. There's different pathways. You have to be able to look at multiple genes in a pathway. And so that's really where working with a company like us, you're getting somebody that holds your hand. You are getting somebody to tell you, hey, this is you uniquely. These are your results. This is how it applies. So it's not just a general, like, go out and buy your gene test from Target and run it and get a report, because they're not looking at that individual aspect for you. They're just like, here's your genes, look at it. They're not looking at the connection to what's actually going on in your life.
Wow. Yeah, it's super in depth too. And what came about the idea? Because I know you said you were like, before when we were chatting, before we started filming, that you were working with a lot of individuals on one spectrum, but now really working with firefighters, athletes, other aspects of things.
Well, we just really realized through doing this with so many people that have tic disorders. So we have a very big population that has a really chronic illness. But when we do the genetics and we see that improvement, it really opened my eyes to the fact that we can start helping other people optimize what's going on. So, you know, my husband is in law enforcement, and that to me was a big piece of, hey, I'm talking to him, I'm having this conversation. My sons are athletes. So when we start to look at like they're wrestlers and we're taking the genetic supplementation and we're following the right diet, and my friends will be like, your kids are beasts. And I'm like, my kids are beasts because we are able to look at their genes and do all of these things. So it was really a combination of just this, where I am in life right now with my kids and my husband and all of this, and how, and my clients, of course, and how we can really make them feel exceptional.
I love it. And I'm sure there's so many more stories to come because you just started in May. So it's just like taking off, I'm sure. But what do you see the future looking like for both businesses?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely continue to see Regenerating Health, working with the tic disorders, continue to grow. We have a lot of goals and things that we have a lot of clients right now that we are actively working with. So, you know, that's just going to continue growing. There's really, really astounding to me how many people out there have tic disorders and they're just told to ignore their symptoms. So we're definitely growing in that aspect. You know, Elite Gene Labs continuing to just take off and be working with those people on that genetic optimization. So definitely looking at a lot of growth in the next 2 to 3 years in both areas.
I love it. I'm so excited for you. And just with everything that you have endured the last 2 years, there's been a lot of growth, a lot of lessons learned. But what do you think is the biggest takeaway outside of like the possibilities, knowing there's so much possible? But what else is the biggest takeaway for you these last 2 years?
My biggest takeaway for me personally is, holy cow. I really, like, it's been kind of like a very big eye opener for me to realize that for, you know, the regenerating health piece and the tics is that we weren't alone. There's so many people out there struggling, but just how many people need help. And coming out of COVID, really, so many people are more open to the working virtually with a provider instead of having to go like to their next door neighborhood physician and ask for help where they may not get a lot of good return. COVID definitely flipped the switch because so many people are like, we can live in this virtual world and we can do all of these things and we don't have to, you know, go down to the corner or whatever.
Makes life a lot easier and more
It
accessible.
sure does. Yeah, for sure, for sure, for sure.
Like you
So
said, there's so many people all over the world that you get to help because the virtual aspect is just at our fingertips and being
yeah,
able to do that.
for me, that's been the biggest, wildest thing. I mean, when you read the book and you know my backstory, this is not where I started out. I ended up here because of my son, and it was really to help my son. And the explosion and the growth and the success that our clients are seeing, it just blows my mind all of the time. Like it's just out of this world.
Oh, I love it. And I feel like there's just so much more that you're going to do. I know this is only just a little part of all the things that are going to explode and just help more people, because I think it's knowledge is power when applied. I'm a firm believer in that. But all the knowledge that you've taken, all the hardships you had to go through with your son in particular to get him on track, but now you get to help so many other families continue that and have the successes. And I'm sure it just fills your heart. I know, just like hearing it, I feel your energy, of course, every time that we chat, but it's amazing.
Yeah, I was accepted as faculty for A4M. So A4M is, the functional medicine community. And they have asked me to come teach in September at their pediatric symposium. And I'm going to be teaching on precision medicine for tic disorders and optimizing genetics. So, this is really my opportunity as somebody, with a PhD. I'm not a physician, to step out of my box and teach other providers what we are doing and what that success looks like. So I'm really excited to be doing that in September.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. And it's just that ripple effect, continuing to help, and that dominoes of not just yourself helping, but also the team of 10, but now all the facilitators and people that are actually working with clients on a regular basis that can continue to pay it forward. Oh, I love it. So exciting. Well, I've been so enjoying this conversation, just catching up, seeing what you've been up to, but where can people find you? We're going to link everything below, but if you could let us know too.
So you can find me at regenerating.health. So www.regenerating.health. You can grab the book on Amazon, TikTok. Elite Gene Labs is elitegenelabs.com. We have a quiz there. So you can go to elitegenelabs.com. You can take our quiz and it'll tell you, what you need to be doing for your genetics based on the answers to your quiz. TicDisorderQuiz.com. You can go there and take the tic disorder quiz and find out, what approach you should be doing with your child. So lots of great ways to get in touch with me. You can always find me on Instagram and Facebook at Regenerating Health or Elite Gene Labs.
Perfect. I love it. Well, I love that there's just so many resources that you've created to really help people in so many capacities, not just one element, but continuing to just expand and grow. And it's been amazing to watch what's unfolded the last 2 years. But thank you again, Dr. Piper, for coming on, sharing just what you've been up to, all the amazing things. I'm so excited for the second launch of the business, as well as the book, as well as being able to teach now and just continuing to pay it forward and make an impact everywhere you go. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I loved catching up. It was awesome. So thank you.
Of course, make sure to like, subscribe, comment below what was the biggest takeaway from Dr. Piper today. I'm sure she would love to see that comment, and we'll see you on the next episode.